overcoming our losses. Overcoming loss. How do we overcome loss? How do we overcome whether it is the loss of a loved one, the loss of a parent, the loss, God forbid, of a child? How do we overcome the loss of our jobs? How do we overcome the loss of friends? How do we overcome losses that seem to be overwhelming to us? And I think it's important to begin by really determining what is a loss. And I would start by saying, my friends, that a loss is anything that you feel deeply down inside that you had before, that you don't have now, that you long to get back. Something that you wish it could be like it was again, but unfortunately will never be the same. How do you overcome that loss? And I think it's important to just give you a little bit of background of why I think I have the capacity to speak in this regard. I am an overcomer. I'm a survivor. I have experienced tremendous loss in my life, loss that would make the average person wonder, how do you succeed? How do you go forward? I talk about often how when I was 6 years old, I had an aunt named Clay, and Clay was my favorite aunt, and she would hug me and kiss me all the time and take me to her house to stay with the kids. And then one day, my Aunt Clay, who had a boyfriend by the name of Robert, found herself in an abusive situation. She found herself with a boyfriend who said that if I can't have you, when she decided to ultimately get out of the situation, then no one else can. And he stabbed and killed my aunt. He stabbed her 20+ times until she died. And one of the tragic things about it was that her 2 children were there. They witnessed the entire thing. The next door neighbors, they heard it. They called the police when it was over. Robert ran down the street, buried the murder weapon after my aunt had been killed. Devastated me at the age of 6 years old. How do you overcome that? By the time I was 14 years old, my cousin James, who was a first cousin of mine, and I loved him dearly, just as if he were a brother, found himself caught up with the wrong crowd. I then received a phone call that my cousin had been murdered, had been shot 9 times in the stomach, dumped along the side of a road. How do you overcome that? Fast forward 5 years. I'm in college. I get a phone call that my brother, the brother that I grew up with and loved and considered one of my dearest friends, had been murdered, sitting in his car on the corner of 4th and Tamarind in West Palm Beach, Florida, shot in the head by drive-by shooters. How do you overcome that? Then, a year later, I received another phone call that another brother of mine had been murdered, shot by a fellow who called himself his friend with a shotgun. Promising career, dead at 24 years old. How do you overcome that? My friends, I think that the first and most important step to understand is that it's possible. It's possible to overcome devastating loss. It's possible to achieve the dreams that those loved ones who are no longer here with you held for you. It's possible to move on.